Welcome to the Witchy Work Wishes podcast, a place to find your weekly inspiration for bringing your personal witchcraft practice into your business, work, and office. Hello, my beautiful witchy family, and welcome to episode number 134, A Witch's Guide to Big Picture Thinking. Today, I would like to talk just heart to heart with you about that very topic, because I believe it tends to get overlooked in our magical journeys, that long-term visioning. And I know as witches, we are deeply present beings. We honor the seasons as they turn. We mark the phases of the moon. We listen to the whisper of the winds and the roots growing under our feet. And that is powerful. That is sacred. But here's something I've learned on my own journey, and it's something that I feel called to share with you today. It's not just about honoring where we are, it's also about dreaming into where we are becoming. Big picture thinking, that long-term visioning is itself a form of magic. It's spell work that is stretched out across time. It is manifestation that doesn't just bloom for a moment, but actually grows into a mighty oak. So today we are going to walk through why this is so important and how you can begin weaving it into your practice. But first, I always like to give a little update on what is happening in my cauldron, in my little corner of the world, and with Witchy Work Wishes. Well, I don't know about you guys, but my May 1st, my Beltane, did not turn out how I envisioned. Not at all. It began in the morning, and honestly it went all the way into the evening with being off. The magical Beltane dew drop journey I do each year did not play out as I thought it would. I did it for you guys? Did you guys try to grab some dewdrops? Seriously though, the day before here where I am, on Wednesday the 30th of April, there was dew everywhere that morning, everywhere. Then on the morning of May 1st, nothing. Nothing even close to what it was the day before. It was there, but in a much more subtle way, a much quieter presence. Now, I personally look forward to the magical dewdrop collection year after year, but it did not happen for me last week. And here we are, right, thinking about today's topic. It turned me in a 180-degree roundabout. So I normally collect as much as I possibly can, which honestly is never that much, but it's something. I usually get a little vial full, on a good day, right? But this year, I could not do it. I went out to my yard as planned, right, during that liminal time of sunrise. I had my collection supplies, and I brought my phone to capture pictures, a couple of the collections for you. But it was not floating on the flowers. It was not, dangling from the leaves. There was no dew for me to collect like that at all. It was, however, in the grass, kind of like a, blanket of thin veil energy. So, okay, right, this is what we do. I stopped. I listened to the direction that, I was being given, and I figured out what I needed to do was, maybe just embrace the energy of right now, of here and now, not collect for later use like I normally do. So, what do you do? That's what I did. I took off my fluffy slippers and I walked barefoot in the dew-covered grass. And I just was. For a moment, I was quiet. I was grounded and I allowed myself to, just kind of be. Again, not at all what I envisioned, not at all what I planned for, but whatever. It is what it is. Apparently, it is what I needed at the time. So I just accepted it. And I was happy to have that moment. And then, the kittens. I mentioned last week that I am fostering a new batch, and well, one of them took a turn for the worse. I have been caring for a tiny little litter of 6 sweet souls who arrived needing bottle feeding every 2 hours. And yes, that pace of every 2 hours actually continues through the night. These early days are so delicate for them. They're exhausting and beautifully sacred for me, but super delicate for the baby kittens. But as my day continued on May 1st, on Beltane, the fire festival of life, the fertility festival, the abundance festival, I actually lost one. One of the kittens took a turn for the worse like a couple days earlier. Well, in all honesty, he was never really thriving. Truly struggled each day. But despite all of the care, all of the warmth, all of the late night feedings, it became clear that his little body couldn't stay. And we made the call to let that tiny soul go peacefully and, end his struggles. Sorry. So now I have 5. Now I have 5 kittens that are just, nestled in a blanket beside me and a really heavy ache where the 6th little kitten should be. And of course on Beltane, it was a work day, right? I still had work to do. So I came back to my desk and composed myself the best I could to finish out the day in the office. But I was like, really? Really? This is my Beltane this year? I got mad. I was sad. I still am, obviously. Like, it hurts. To my core, it hurts. Sorry, that's my dog barking. He's chiming in here. But I was able to continue care for the others. I got their playpen all cleaned up, and freshened up from the pending stress. They feel it when one of their litter mates is struggling. I did a new round of bottle feeding, got everything underway, and, the Beltane evening begun. And the timing of everything that day, honestly, towards the evening, it wasn't lost on me. Beltane is supposed to be, for me, for most of us, right? A celebration of life bursting forth, of new beginnings, of love and growth and passion and creation. And yet, I was met with loss. There is something deeply ironic and oddly profound about that, because life, like real life, is messy, right? Isn't it? It's full of paradox. We don't get to separate joy from sorrow or beginnings from endings. Sometimes they arrive hand in hand, wrapped in the same breath. So there I was, holding grief on a day of celebration, holding silence in the middle of Beltane's beautiful song. I searched for clarity. Maybe there's a lesson here, right? That's what we do. What am I supposed to get from this? And then a glimpse of the bigger picture came as I went to sleep that night, that, even when things seem small, like a kitten not even 2 weeks old, their presence still changes us, teaches us. That little life reminded me to show up fully, love quickly, and be present, even in the shadows. And maybe the lesson was, not that every story ends in survival, but every story does, in fact, hold meaning. Okay, so that's going to bring us to today's episode, that big picture thinking. Because sometimes it is hard to see the broader view when we are standing in grief or confusion. But the truth is, the universe is always weaving something larger than we can grasp in the moment. And maybe part of our work, part of our magic, is to trust that even in loss, we are growing. So today I am sitting here with 5 kittens, and I am missing 1. And I am thinking about how precious every moment is, how fleeting it is, and how Beltane, in all of its brightness, still makes room for shadow. I also do want to say thank you to you guys before we jump into today's episode. I know these episodes are drawing from things that are currently on my mind and stuff that I am actually working on. So I'm really, really thankful that you stick with me for the journey, that you are here and are a part of the Witchy Work Wishes family. And that the episodes are helping you too with your practice. I really like our family, and even though we are still relatively small, it doesn't matter. It's our family. It's our space. And I just really want you to know that I am grateful that you are sharing it with me. I also want to share a special story again. Yes, I'm on another little story binger, but this one is a tribute to all of the moms out there. We have a Mother's Day coming up this weekend, and I wanted to write a short story about how powerful this energy can be. And then we'll get into the big picture thinking of today's episode, because we need to start off May with it so we can dig our heels in afterwards and really get down to some serious witchy business. All right, let's do our Mother's Day story for our Witchy Work Wishes family. In a small cottage tucked between the wild lavender fields and a whispering forest lived a witch named Elsa. Her magic wasn't loud. It didn't crackle like lightning or boom like thunder. It hummed low and steady, like a lullaby remembered from lifetimes past. She was a hearthkeeper, a mother, and the sole thread that bound her family to something ancient and bright. Elsa's two sons, Ryan and Tristan, grew up wrapped in the warmth of her enchantments. Not the flashy kind that called stars from the sky, but the everyday spells that wove love into soup, courage into morning tea, and laughter into rainy days. On their windowsills, bundles of rosemary and wild rose petals kept nightmares away. On their foreheads, before each school day, she'd trace a tiny sigil of protection with her thumb and whisper, "Go with the knowing that you are powerful, kind, and safe." They didn't always see the magic, well, not at first. They just knew that when the world felt too heavy, Mom would light a candle and somehow their worries would float away on its glow. That when they felt unseen, she would look them in the eye and speak their truth back to them, whole and shining. That when they fell, she never rushed. She kneeled, breathed with them, and showed them how to rise. Her garden grew in circles and spirals. She taught them how to listen to the plants, how yarrow offered courage, chamomile soothed sorrow, and dandelions were wishes waiting to be heard. Under the moon, they learned that spells were just focused love, that prayers could be written with herbs, and that magic lived in every choice to care. Tristan called her his storm whisperer. Ryan said she had moonlight in her bones. But Elsa never asked for titles. Her joy was in watching them bloom, strong in their truth, rooted in their values, and unafraid to walk the world with wonder. Years passed, the boys grew, the cottage remained. And every Mother's Day, no matter how far they roamed, Tristan and Ryan returned home. They brought stories and laughter and old journals with new spells. They brewed tea from her garden, lit candles at her altar, and told her, again and again, how her quiet power made them brave. That her magic wasn't just in the spell jars and seasonal rituals. It was the way she loved, fiercely, gently, unapologetically. And in that love, they learned to be whole. Happy Mother's Day to all of the beautiful moms out there. My thoughts are with you. And as we sit with the heart of that story of a witch mother named Elsa whose quiet magic shaped the lives of her sons, I hope we all take a second just to realize something profound, that so much of our power as witches, as people, lies not in the moment-to-moment spells that we cast, but in the long threads that we weave over time. Elsa didn't just protect her sons for a single day. She built a foundation that they could return to their entire lives. She lived her magic with the long view in mind, tending to the future with every ritual, every little whispered word, and every seed planted in her garden. And that leads us right into the essence of the big picture thinking that we are going to talk about today. So let's take this love-forward energy of Mother's Day and stretch it into the broader canvas of our own lives and our work. Let's talk about what it means to think long-term, to see beyond, our amazing to-do list that we work so hard to create, and to step into our role as a visionary witch at the altar, at home, and at the office. The question that got me started on today's important topic is, why should we think long term? And the answer I came up with is this. When we only focus on the immediate, right, the next moon cycle, the next Sabbath, the next spell, We stay in a reactive mode. We are responding to life as it happens, which of course can be beautiful, but it can also leave us feeling a little scattered, like, leaves blowing in the spring wind. Long-term visioning invites us to become the wind instead. It reminds us that we are the architects of our magical lives. We are not just participants. We are creators. And when we allow ourselves to dream, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, or even longer, our magic grows deeper roots. We stop casting spells out of desperation, and we start casting spells out of deep, aligned intention. When we stretch our vision forward, we are also stretching our connection to spirit, to, the unseen threads that we weave our future with. We are saying to the universe, like, hey, I trust you enough to dream big, and I trust myself enough to become. So when you create a long-term magical vision, whether it's building a homestead, maybe it's growing your own business, maybe it's weaving deeper ancestral connections, or hey, becoming a wise elder in your community, you are entering into sacred partnership with spirit. You are co-creating not just one manifestation, but an entire lifetime of unfolding magic. And it's not about controlling every outcome. It's more about like walking forward with a lantern of intention, knowing the path will appear under your feet with every step. So thinking long term, it honors the cycles of growth and dormancy. One of the most sacred lessons I think we have as witches, right, is that we learn from nature that everything has seasons. There are seasons of blooming. There are seasons of harvest. There are seasons of rest. There are seasons of invisible growth underground. And when you hold a long-term vision, I think you're able to honor those natural cycles without panic. You understand that a quiet season isn't failure. It's composting, right? You recognize that setbacks aren't the death of a dream. They are part of the soil that nourishes it. Long-term thinking lets you dance with time itself. It gives you the patience of the trees and, that resilience of the tides. So thinking long-term, I believe, keeps our magic resilient in a really ever-changing world. Because let's be honest, right? We live in a fast, chaotic world. Trends rise and fall overnight. Social media bombards us with a bunch of shoulds and musts. When you hold a long-term magical vision, though, you root yourself outside of all of that noise. You create a sacred space that isn't swayed by the latest trends or the sudden storms. You are able to ask yourself, hey, does this serve my vision? Does this align with my spirit? Instead of getting pulled in 100 different directions. I think this is especially important for us witches who are building something bigger than ourselves, right? Businesses, communities, legacies. Long-term visioning helps us stay steady and grounded and deeply aligned with our true soul path. So how do we begin, right? How do we harness this long-term thinking? I am going to gently guide you through a few first steps, like nothing overwhelming, just small seeds that you can actually plant today. First and foremost is to anchor into your deepest desires. Find a quiet little moment after this podcast, light a candle, and breathe deep. Ask yourself, what does my soul yearn to create in this lifetime? Don't edit yourself. Let the answers flow freely as much as possible, right? Do it in writing and drawing. Speak it out loud, something, but don't edit. Next step is to map out a magical decade. Like imagine yourself 10 years from right now. What kind of witch are you? Where are you living? How do you spend your days? Who do you serve, help, heal? Who do you create for? Sketch it out like a story. Make it super vivid. Third step is to set waystones instead of deadlines. I know, because you guys know if you've been with me for multiple years here, I am big on goals. I am big on deadlines. I am big on all the baby steps. And we're going to get a little peek into that next month to check in to see how we are actually doing with our goals. But right now, for this type of work, instead of rigid goals, let's create some little waystones, meaningful little milestones that feel like part of a journey. Maybe it's learning herbalism. Maybe it's completing a year-long spellwork series. Maybe it's founding a coven. Let these little waystones be invitations, though, not demands. And then fourth, do something to honor your progress through ritual. Like celebrate each step. Create little rituals to mark your growth. And then every time you actually pass a waystone, light a candle, offer gratitude, and call in the next stage of your unfolding vision. Those 4 steps are really going to help you plant that seed today. Big picture thinking is not about abandoning the beauty of the present moment, right? It's about giving your magic a strong, loving container to grow inside of. It's about becoming the witch that you are destined to be. One breath, one season, one spell at a time. All right, let's talk about how getting stuck in details can really limit manifestation and our spell work. Now that we've talked about the importance of the big picture thinking, I think we need to talk about a trap that so many of us, myself included, can fall into. And that really is getting stuck in the tiny details. At first glance, you might think, but wait, isn't witchcraft all about details, precision, and rituals, right? And yes, there is a place for care and attention, absolutely. We honor timing, ingredients, sacred directions, correspondences, and symbols. But there's a difference between mindful crafting and obsessive micromanaging, right? Getting stuck in the weeds of the details can actually limit and sometimes even block our manifestation and spell work. So one of the sneakiest little ways detail obsession can hold us back is by making us believe we have to do everything perfect before we can act, right? The perfect moon phase, the perfect herbs, the perfect tools, the perfect mood, the perfect altar. And then if even one little thing is missing or just slightly off, we convince ourselves the whole spell is ruined, or worse, we don't even try at all. I can go back to last week for me personally. I was so ready for Beltane. I had everything organized and set to go, and that day did not turn out at all like I had hoped or wanted. I didn't want to miss out on the magic though, and it was late, right? Super late, but I did it at the end of the evening. I tried to see the bigger picture. Because here's the truth. Perfection is not the gatekeeper of magic. Right? Magic is alive. It breathes within us. It meets us where we are. Waiting for perfect only delays our growth. It feeds, it feeds fear instead of feeding faith. Real power comes from weaving your magic with what you have right here and right now. When we obsess over tiny details, we lose sight of the bigger vision. Instead of focusing on the transformation we're, calling in, we are fretting over whether we used a red candle or a burgundy one, or, if the jar was in the right shape. Let me tell you, I do not believe Spirit cares if your jar was round or square. Spirit, whatever energy you work with, right, cares about your energy, your intention, your will. If we put more emotional energy into worrying than into believing, guess what? Guess what grows? The worry grows. So long-term, successful manifestation is about holding the vision steady, not nitpicking every blade of grass along the path. When we get too tangled up in details, we don't just micromanage ourselves. We try to micromanage the entire universe. We end up saying things like, it has to happen exactly this way. Or maybe, I need it by this date, in this format, delivered by this person. Or you might even say, if it doesn't show up exactly how I pictured it, it's not working. But guess what? Here is a sacred truth. I believe The universe often has a much bigger picture, much more, magical plan than we can probably even imagine. By trying to dictate every little outcome, we are unknowingly, shrinking the possibilities available to us. It's like asking for a rose, but refusing to accept the whole enchanted garden that's blooming just outside your door. We have to leave a little space in our spells, space for the magic to surprise us, to delight us, and to exceed what we thought was even possible. Another thing that happens when we get stuck in the little details, I think we burn ourselves out. All of that mental spinning, double checking, second guessing, redoing, right? It leaks energy. And energy is the fuel of our magic. Without strong, focused energy, even the most beautifully constructed spells will fall flat. It's not the elaborate setup that powers your spell. It's you. You. It's your belief, your emotion, your vision, your raw, sovereign will. Sometimes the most potent magic happens when you strip it all down to the essentials, right? You, your heart, and your sacred connection to spirit. Everything else, it's like flavoring. Okay, so how do we shift out of detail overload? What can we do when that obsessive itch comes on? Well, I say return to the core intention, right? If it comes on whenever you feel yourself spiraling into is this the right shade of green? Whatever it is, just pause. Ask yourself, what am I really trying to create here? What is the heart of this spell? And then anchor back into that deeper why. If you feel that obsessive little itch coming on, embrace the imperfect magic. Make a pact with yourself. Hey, progress over perfection. Remember that the most important ingredient in any spell is your intention, not your supplies. If you feel that little nasty, obsessive itch come on, speak a mantra of surrender. I love to do little whispers. Say something like this or something better, for the good of all, with harm to none. And then just, release control, right? Let the universe weave its wider web. That itch comes on. Think about, open-ended spells that you can build. Instead of, casting one for an exact outcome, cast for feelings, for maybe experiences or energies. For example, I welcome love that nourishes my soul. Instead of, I must marry whoever, whatever person by whatever date. And then finally, just trust your inner witch, right? You are magic. You are the sacred vessel. So trust that your energy knows how to flow, even when the candle is crooked or the herbs are improvised. Magic's messy, right? It's wild, it's organic. It's not a sterile checklist. It's a living relationship between you and the unseen. When we release the need to control every tiny little thing, I think our spell work becomes more alive, a little more free, a little more powerful than it was before. I do want to talk about a powerful ally that we often overlook when it comes to that big picture thinking too, and that is the element of air. Air is often thought as the element of, intellect, communication, clarity, right? But it's also the element that teaches us to rise above, to detach from the noise, to observe with clear sight, and to realign with our greater vision. And honestly, this entire episode, this whole beautiful conversation that we are having, was inspired by something that came through very strong in our April Patreon card pull. Last month we pulled the eagle spirit, and the message of the eagle is so profoundly tied to the energy of air. It is about soaring higher, seeing farther, and trusting in the expansive currents that carry us beyond the everyday into the extraordinary. And working on all of our, worksheets and spells, our teas and journal prompts last month really motivated me to have this be our topic for today. How air and the eagle can help us embody big picture magic in our everyday lives. And by now, right, these episodes are created when I need something in my practice and my life. And then I think, if I do, maybe you do too. And when we are caught up in heavy emotions, tangled in that overthinking that we all do, or even stuck in the tiny frustrations of daily life, it is super easy to lose sight of our magic. We feel weighed down, grounded in the worst way, trapped in a loop of what ifs and should haves. Air element teaches us something profoundly healing. Like, you are allowed to lift above it. You are allowed to detach, not to abandon, right? Not to suppress your feelings, but to give them space, to breathe around them, to see them from a greater distance. Imagine yourself as the eagle, right? Soaring high over vast landscape. From up there, the obstacles that seemed so massive on the ground shrink to a small, manageable shape. From up there, you can see the rivers winding and the forests spreading and the paths that you couldn't see when you were too close. When you engage with air energy, you are giving yourself permission to, rise above the drama, the fear, the micro focus, and reconnect with the grand, beautiful design of your life. Now, air helps us observe without judgment too. One of the most magical gifts I think that the air element has is its ability to be neutral. Right? The wind does not judge the mountains or the valleys. It moves through everything with equal grace. When we embrace air energy, we are learning to observe, our lives, our patterns, our magic without judgment. I think this is crucial for big picture thinking, because when we judge ourselves harshly, we tend to collapse inward. We shame ourselves for not being far enough, right? We aren't far enough along. We aren't doing enough. We are not perfect. But when we simply observe with compassion, maybe a little curiosity, I think we create space for realignment without self-punishment. We can say things like, aha, I see, I was getting caught in fear here. Or, hey, interesting, I'm still clinging to some old expectations. Something. We can see it though when we rise above and don't get caught in the details. From that place of gentle observation, I believe we can make some powerful, loving adjustments. We can steer back toward the vision that we hold in our hearts without bruising ourselves in the process. The air element also invites us to realign with our highest vision. The element of air doesn't just lift us up or help us observe. It also carries us forward. It moves us, it propels us, it nudges us back toward the current of our highest becoming. So when you are working with big picture magic, I believe air is going to help, remind us that our dreams are allowed to evolve. Air helps to remind us that our path is allowed to shift. And it reminds us that we are allowed to change direction without losing our power. In fact, course corrections are a sign of strength, you guys. They show us that you are listening, you are growing, you are turning yourself even closer to the truths of your soul's unfolding. When you feel yourself drifting off course, whether through fear, distractions, maybe some old wounds, because they tend to pop up, right? Air invites us to, simply adjust our wings. We're not going to crash. We don't need to give up. We just need to tilt, to lift, to catch a new current. We are not lost. We are just learning to fly higher. Now, I truly believe that the eagle spirit came through for us in April because we are all being called to rise right now. Not just rise emotionally, but, rise energetically, spiritually, visionally. We are being asked to stop crouching in the weeds of worry and instead stretch our wings wide and trust the view from above. Eagle Spirit teaches us that when we ascend, we allow ourselves to dream bigger, see a little bit farther, and trust the invisible currents of magic. We don't lose ourselves. We find the truest parts of ourselves. We remember that we are not small. We are vast. We are limitless, just like the sky. And with the element of air as our ally, I think we can move through life with a little bit more grace that is, unattached to temporary storms. that is rooted in the powerful, soaring vision of who we are becoming. Okay, now that we've opened our hearts to the energy of the element of air and the call of the eagle spirit, I would actually like to share some magical practices with you so we can work with this energy. These are ways we can actively work with expanding our awareness, like stretching our vision beyond the here and now, tapping into the deeper currents of our path, and moving into true big picture magic. Some of these practices are meditative, some are divination, type exercises, and some are actually action-based, but all of them will help you rise higher, see just a little bit further, and move forward with a greater trust and clarity. First, let's do a little meditation journey. One of my favorite journeys for big picture thinking is an eagle flight visualization exercise. And here's how you can do it. Again, if you can't do it right now, listen to the steps and then try after the podcast is done. Find a quiet space where you can sit or lie down comfortably. Close your eyes and really slow your breathing. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a high cliff. Feel the wind lifting your hair, like tugging at your spirit. When you're ready, take a powerful leap and transform into an eagle. Feel your wings stretching wide, catching the currents. Feel yourself lifting higher, higher, and higher into the blue sky. And as you soar, look down at your life. Imagine seeing your journey, like your relationships, your dreams, your challenges, laid out like a map. What stands out to you? Where do you see rivers flowing easily? Where do you see obstacles that are smaller than you actually realized? Stay there for as long as you need, simply observing. When you're ready, carry the insights back with you like sacred feathers tucked into your heart. This practice can help you detach, observe, and realign just like we were talking about earlier. All right, another one is a wind listening ritual. That is super easy, beautifully simple, but so potent. On a day when the wind is super active, even if it's a gentle breeze, you want to step outside and simply sit quietly. Close your eyes and tune into the feel of the air moving across your skin, your hair, and your clothes. And then ask the wind, what do I need to know about my path? What wisdom do you have for me? Stay open. Listen not just with your ears, but with your whole body. Notice the direction of the wind, its rhythm, its temperature. I think sometimes messages will come as words or phrases, right? Other times it will be a feeling, like a little nudge to move in a new direction. Or it could come as a sense of affirmation that you are right where you need to be. The air is ancient. It carries messages older than memory, so trust what you feel. We can also work with divination practices for higher perspective too. One I like is a tarot spread that we can call the Eagle's Perspective for today's topic, but this is going to be helpful when you're feeling stuck in the weeds of your own life and you need to reconnect to that bigger picture. This is a simple tarot spread, but I do think it can help bring some good clarity. You're going to be asking the questions, what am I missing? What do I need to focus on right now? What is the bigger picture unfolding for me? And how can I align myself with my higher vision? Ask the questions, pull your cards, and lay them out in kind of like a loose circle or an upward spiral, right? As if they are lifting you higher with each insight. This spread, I think, kind of, helps you lift out of the details. It helps me lift out of the details. And it reconnects us to the broader currents moving, in our lives. Scrying with air is a good one, though. This is a great tool in our divination toolbox and really is one of the oldest ways to grab information with, smoke, incense, or even cloud movement. So for this, we can light a stick of incense, or even if you've got like a loose bundle of herbs like lavender, mugwort, whatever you have, right? And then as the smoke rises, soften your gaze a little bit and let your mind enter a light trance state. Watch the way the smoke curls and twists and moves. What shapes do you see? What feelings arise? And you want to actually go outside, do some cloud watching? This is a great thing to do with magical intent. Ask the clouds to reveal symbols or guidance for your big picture journey. And then let the images arise naturally, right? Without forcing interpretation. Both smoke and clouds are messengers of the air realm. And when you work with them consciously, I think they will whisper back. All right, let's do some goal setting with the air element magic too, because it is another beautiful practice in, using the physical elements of air to kind of help us release our intentions. So for this, we want to find like a natural object carried by the wind. This could be like a fallen feather, a leaf, maybe a little dandelion puff. Write your goal, intention, or dream on it. Symbolically, of course, right? If it's something small. Sometimes even just whispering it into the object is enough. But then take it outside. Hold it in your heart and release it into the wind. Trust that the element of air will carry your intention exactly where it needs to go. Maybe even farther, a little bit more farther, a little more beautifully than you even imagined. And then finally, one of my favorite ways to work with the element of air for big vision magic is through sigils. Now, sigils are symbols of intention. They are compact. They are potent spells written in pictorial form. So for this, we can create a sigil based on your big vision, right? For example, I expand into my highest potential. Draw it on a piece of paper, on your skin, or trace it in the air with your finger. Once it's created, though, activate it with breath work. Hold the sigil in front of you. Inhale deeply, imagining light and power pooling in your lungs. Exhale over the sigil with the intention of breathing life into it. Repeat 3 times, feeling the sigil like catch and activate in the unseen realms. This sigil method connects your body, your breath, your will, and the element of air into one seamless act of creation. Now, working with air, you guys, it's not just about thinking, right? It really is about soaring, or I think it is. It's about giving ourselves permission to move lightly, freely, expansively. It's about trusting that the winds of spirit are carrying us exactly where we are meant to go, whether through visualization, divination, ritual, or spellcraft. We can weave with the currents of air to lift our awareness, to, sharpen our vision and become the eagles, the eagles of our own magical lives. Okay, before we do some office stuff, let's talk about breaking through our illusions and mental blocks real fast, because it's another pretty important layer to our conversation today. Even when we have set our sights high, even when we have built our dreams and opened our wings, sometimes we still feel, like stuck, right? Heavy, clouded, unsure. And most often, it isn't because our dreams are wrong or our magic is broken. It's because we are caught in the fog of self-doubt and fear. So let's talk about how air energy can help us clear that fog, cut through confusion, and see with true discernment. Let's breathe into it together, shall we? All right, self-doubt and fear. As fog, just picture it, right? You're standing at the top of a mountain, ready to fly. But instead of a clear view, you're surrounded by thick mist. You know there's a path, you know there's a sky, but you can't see it. You start questioning yourself. Oh gosh, am I going the right way? Should I even be doing this? What if I fail? What if I fall? This is the nature of self-doubt and fear. It acts like a fog. It obscures what is actually there. It makes solid ground feel shaky, and it makes our true paths seem, I don't know, like lost. But here's the good news. Air is the great dispenser of fog. Air teaches us that no matter how thick the mist may seem, it is not permanent. It can lift in an instant with the right breath, with the right breeze, the right shift of perspective. When we consciously work with air element, the air energy, we invite clarity back into our lives. We remind ourselves that the fears we face are just vapor, right? Powerful looking, but intangible when we dare to step through them. We remember that we are not lost. We are simply learning to trust ourselves again. All right, let's do something real quick that's super easy, super simple, that you can use whenever you feel tangled in doubt, confusion, or you have those mental blocks. It's a way to call on the energy of air to clear the fog and reignite your inner clarity. All right, for this, all we need is a candle and a feather. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? If you have a light blue candle, great. If you have a white candle, something for clarity and air connection, that would be good. And then if you have a feather, it's optional, of course, but it really is wonderful for air magic. And you just need a quiet space, some moment in the day where you can take maybe 10 or 15 minutes of uninterrupted time. Set your space though first, right? Find a place where you can sit comfortably with your candle in front of you. Light the candle and take 3 deep, grounding breaths. In your mind, or out loud, name the doubts or fears that you are clearing. Name the fog. So example, like, I release the fear of failure. I clear the confusion about my next step. Then we want to breathe in the activation. Gaze softly into the candle flame. With each inhale, imagine breathing in clear, crisp air. And with each exhale, imagine blowing away the fog that is surrounding you. Visualize that mist thinning and lifting and vanishing with each breath. Now, if you do have a feather, gently, kind of like sweep it through the air around your body. Imagine it just brushing away any lingering confusion. And then seal the clarity. When you feel that shift, right? When the space around you and inside you just feels a little bit lighter, speak a simple charm like, by the breath of air and the light of flame, I see clearly. I know my path. So it is. And then close the ritual. Snuff out the candle with gratitude and carry that sense of clarity into the rest of your day. Now, beyond clearing mental blocks, I think air also gives us with some, precious and rare qualities of discernment. What is discernment, you ask? Well, discernment is the ability to separate truth from illusion, to know what is aligned and what is a distraction, to feel what is real for us and what is simply noise from the outside world. In everyday life, practicing discernment is going to look like, questioning not from fear, but from curiosity. Asking, is this my truth or someone else's expectation? And feeling the lightness of what resonates and the heaviness of what doesn't. Air teaches us to move lightly, not to cling too tightly to dogma, doubt, or external voices. To let thoughts, ideas, and options swirl around us and to choose what truly lifts our spirits higher. When you practice discernment, you stop getting blown around by every passing gust. You become like the eagle, once again, right? Soaring steadily, choosing your currents, navigating by a wisdom deeper than the clouds. Self-doubt and fear may rise. That's part of being a human, and it's especially part of being a witch walking a powerful, visible path. But we are not powerless against them. We have the breath, we have the clarity, we have the soaring, limitless magic of air itself. So when that fog rolls in, we don't panic. We breathe, we center, we rise. And with every beat of our wings, we remember that clarity isn't something we have to chase. It's something we can call back into ourselves anytime we choose. Okay, let's do some work stuff because I'll tell you, this is my direction for the month of May. I really want to talk about the business side of things for us witches. And we have a lot to talk about in that arena, but not for today. Right now, I want to first talk about the big picture thinking for us at the office because it matters there just as much as it matters for us at home. For those of us, weaving magic between spreadsheets and conference calls and project plans, we need options to help us soar above the everyday noise and help us see our career, our company, and our soul's purpose from a higher, more magical perspective. Now, in the corporate world, it is certainly easy to get tangled in the short term. The deadlines, the urgent emails, the pressure to hit the next quarter's numbers. But real power, the kind that, sustains not just businesses, but our personal well-being, comes when we allow ourselves to think long term. It comes when we adopt that big picture thinking and let our visions stretch out, not to just the next paycheck, but to the next 5, 10, 20 years of growth. Why should we think long term at the office? Well, because sustainability is magic. Because planting seeds now ensures harvests later. Because every powerful enchantment, just like every powerful career move, takes time to build. When we think long term, we allow ourselves to dream beyond the immediate wins. We open space to imagine what our career could become, what kind of leader we want to be, and what legacy are we quietly shaping with every project we touch. So instead of rushing to get through the week, we begin moving with purpose, each small step part of a larger dance towards professional and personal fulfillment. When challenges arise, and they will, we know it, right? A long-term perspective becomes an incredible spell of resilience. Instead of feeling defeated by a difficult meeting or a failed proposal, we remember, hey, this is just one gust of wind in the long journey. It will pass. We adjust our sails and we continue forward. All right, how can we use the element of air to help us at work with that big picture thinking? In the world of magic, I really believe air is the element of the mind, right? Of clarity, communication, of ideas, and expansive thinking. In the office, air really does become our secret ally. It sharpens our wit during meetings. It gives our emails a little persuasive sparkle. And it whispers new ideas into our ears when we least expect it. I work with the element of air at the office. You might try some morning breath work. Before diving into your day, take 5 minutes at your desk or in your car, wherever your job is, to do intentional breath work. Visualize each inhale bringing clarity and each exhale releasing mental clutter. Air clears the fog and helps you see the broader sky. We can do some wind listening rituals. Right? During your lunch break, step outside if you can. Feel the wind on your skin. And then ask, what new ideas are ready to find me? I think the wind carries inspiration, so trust what floats into your awareness. We can work with feather talismans. Oh my gosh, if you guys could see my office and how many feathers I actually have in it. But keep a small feather at your desk. It can be a symbol of air's lightness and perspective. When the day feels heavy, just hold it in your hand and remember, you are meant to rise above, not be weighed down. We can use the element of air for vision boards and those long-term goals. Air loves visualization. So keep a private vision board in your workspace or maybe your planner that holds images and words representing where you want your career to soar. Even if it's a few hidden symbols tucked in your notebook, right? Something to keep your magical intentions alive in the corporate currents. And then back to the sigils. I love those at the office too. Create a simple sigil that embodies your long-term goals. Think about promotion, creative fulfillment, financial stability, leadership, whatever it is for you. Draw it in your planner, under your desk, or on the back of your ID badge, right? Whatever you have for your work. But do something as a subtle, powerful enchantment. I believe as witches, we have always worked our subtle magic. It might have been in the sacred spaces of ancient temples before, right? Or in the quiet corners of sunlit offices now. Even within the buzzing energy of corporate boardrooms, we have always worked our subtle magic. By thinking long term, we claim our seat, right? Not just at the meeting table, but at the table of destiny. By aligning with the element of air, we give our careers the gift of vision, wisdom, and the freedom to move with the winds of change rather than being battered by them. Pulling our gaze higher helps us see the grand tapestry that we are weaving, both in our magical practices and in our professional lives. That long-term vision is important. It's about setting roots that will blossom into the future we desire, even if we can't see every flower just yet. We can, lean into the magic of the element of air to assist us. That bright, expansive force that helps us stay light and inspired and stay clear as we navigate the bustling winds of corporate life. It reminds us that we are not trapped by the walls around us. We are actually capable of soaring and dreaming and creating with intention, no matter where we work. Big dreams are built on small, sacred steps. Clear vision is crafted with daily breaths of trust and wisdom. And magic, like real magic, is the art of believing in the seeds you plant today, even before you see them bloom. All right, if you would like the worksheets for all of this big picture, air element energy, just head over to our Patreon account and you can download everything from there. Last month was all about this specific type of work and will really be a great asset if you want a little bit more direction with it. And definitely is the motivating energy for today's podcast. Okay, before we head over to the poem and the moon update for this week, I do quickly want to talk about the next two episodes because they are going to branch off of today's energy. Like directly branch off. The whole month of May has a business tone to it for sure. May is a big grounding month for me, and it's when, after the hustle and bustle of the January rush and the quarter one close that happens for me in April, it's when I like to get organized again, dig my heels in. So the next two episodes are going to talk about a bunch of stuff, and we're going to end the month with a visit to our annual goals. I know this entire weekly podcast, Witchy Work Wishes, has an obvious work theme, right? And I like to talk about our general witchy stuff and then pull a work aspect into the episode, or, most episodes, before closing out. But the next 2 weeks are full speed ahead because I believe there is a quiet power rising in the corporate world. A new kind of leader, a new kind of creator. And it's us, the witches at work. When we weave our intention, our magic, and our deep-rooted wisdom into our careers, we don't just build businesses. We build legacies. Being a witch in the workplace means we lead with heart. We move with purpose, and we create with the kind of energy that transforms everything we touch. So in the next 2 episodes, we are going to step fully into this role, embracing what it means to be a business witch and how we can use our magical gifts not to just survive in the working world, but to truly thrive, enchant, and lead with power. So get ready because your office, your career, and your magic are about to level up. For now, though, it is poem time and moon phase time, so I will go grab those notes and I will be right back. All right, let's start with the poem first for today's episode, and it goes. We stir our spells in circles wide, yet often dream with tethered sight, chasing moments small and fleeting, forgetting stars are ours by right. But witches know the winds run deeper, beyond the hearth, beyond the shore. A single spark may light a candle, a greater flame can light much more. So lift your eyes beyond the garden, beyond today's soft whispered plea. The seeds you plant are worlds in waiting. The roots you tend reshape the sea. Big picture thinking, ancient, sacred, is the art of witches wise and true. To see not just the path before us, but every sky we might walk through. We dream, we dare, we cast with wonder, we build the bridges made of mist. The future's written by our fingers, in every prayer, in every wish. So cast your circle, dream it higher, breathe in the winds that call your name. For witches are not bound by borders. We are the spark, the wind, the flame. All right, the moon update. She is shining bright, my friends. She is waxing gibbous this week, getting ready for her full showing on Monday. You won't be surprised with the name, especially since we just had our big Beltane May 1st celebration. Yes, our May full moon is called a flower moon. And this full moon is also classified, I believe, as a micromoon, meaning it will appear slightly smaller and dimmer in the sky due to its position at the farthest point from the Earth in its orbit. Now, the flower moon is all about things coming into bloom, not just plants, but dreams and projects and personal growth. You can use this moon to celebrate how far you've come, right? And push energy into the things that you want to see flourish. This is an especially powerful time for manifestation spells, those abundance rituals, and gratitude practices. Nature is at its peak beauty now. It's vibrant, alive, and colorful. So tap into this, energy by working magic that enhances your creative projects, your personal expression, even your sense of confidence and charisma. Craft art, write, dance, dress up, whatever makes you and your spirit feel most alive and beautiful. Now, traditionally, this moon is tied to fertility in the earth and, in life. So go back to all of the amazing Beltane themes that we talked about last week and use this energy for planting seeds, literal gardens or metaphorical ones, for new business ideas, relationships, goals, and visions for the future. During the flower moon, land spirits, fae, and plant divas are especially active. It's a beautiful time to leave offerings in your garden, meditate outdoors, or walk barefoot to feel that deep, energetic connection to the living, breathing earth. All right, you guys, as we wrap up today's episode, I do want to say thank you for sitting with me through both the joy and the ache today. Big picture thinking isn't always about vision boards and 5-year plans. Sometimes it's about learning to hold space for the contradiction. The way a spring morning can carry both blooming flowers and a little bit of quiet grief. The loss of that kitten, oh my goodness. It just reminded me that, even in a season of celebration, we are allowed to feel sorrow. And that being present with the fullness of life, its highs and its lows, is its own kind of magic. It makes us wiser, softer, and stronger. So as you go about your week, I invite you to, take a step back and widen your lens. Look at your life not just in those little snapshots, but as a bigger, much larger picture that is unfolding. Whether you're tending to a dream, maybe you are tending to a project right now, or maybe, like me, you are tending to a tiny creature in need. Know that every action matters, every heartbeat counts, and every moment holds the potential to shape something meaningful. Thank you for being a part of our journey today. I don't know, I really needed this episode, for me and my practice. So I hope it helped you too. I am so grateful, you guys, that you take all of these steps with me each week, week after week. We are here on episode 134 now, and oh my gosh, that's such a biggie. We've covered a lot of around. And now we are going to roll up our sleeves and get to work, like corporate work. And I cannot wait to talk with you next week and dive like right in. For now, though, have an amazing rest of your week and a great weekend celebrating the full moon coming up. And again, to all of the moms out there, happy Mother's Day. How fun to have a full moon for Mother's Day. Have a great rest of your week and weekend, and I will talk with you next week. Thank you for joining me today at Witchy Work Wishes, a place to find your weekly inspiration for bringing your personal witchcraft practice into your business, work, and office. For more information and additional content, please visit me online at witchyworkwishes.com. If you want to send me a personal note, please email me at info@witchyworkwishes.com. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Just search for Witchy Work Wishes.